In the far future, humans had spread across many stars. They built cities on distant planets and traveled between them in huge ships. But there was one place no one dared to go, the edge of human space. At this boundary, strange alien ruins floated silently in the void. For hundreds of years, explorers who crossed that line never came back. Some said it was cursed. Others thought it was protected by technology too advanced to understand. Whatever the reason, people stopped asking questions. Dr. Emily Carter stared at her screen, her fingers flying over the keyboard. She worked aboard the Aurora Dawn Asterisk, a research ship stationed near the border. Her job was to study the barrier, but lately, she'd been finding things that didn't make sense. A few days ago, a broken probe drifted back from the Forbidden Zone. Its systems were fried, but parts of its memory still held data. Emily spent hours piecing together what little remained. What she found made her heart race. The reading showed something unnatural at the edge of human space. It wasn't just empty space, it was like a wall. A force field, maybe, or something even stranger. The numbers hinted at patterns, almost like they were designed. Could it be aliens, or something else entirely? Emily couldn't stop thinking about it. She knew she had stumbled onto something big, but when she shared her findings with Captain Robert Hayes, he shut her down immediately. "Emily," he said firmly, standing in her cramped lab, "you're getting too close to dangerous ground. Stick to your assigned tasks." His tone left no room for argument. Still, Emily felt frustrated. Hayes cared more about rules than answers. He reminded her daily that crossing the barrier was forbidden. No one wanted to risk losing another ship, or worse. But Emily wasn't ready to give up. Late at night, after everyone else had gone to bed, she kept working. She ran simulations and compared old mission logs. Every clue pointed to one conclusion. The barrier wasn't natural. Someone, or something, had put it there. And whoever did it didn't want anyone crossing. One evening, while taking a break in the station's cafeteria, Emily noticed a man sitting alone at a corner table. His name was Alex Turner, a pilot known for bending the rules. He had a scruffy beard and tired eyes, but there was something sharp about him. Emily recognized him from rumors around the station. People said he'd once been part of the military, but left under mysterious circumstances. Now he flew freelance jobs, smuggling goods between colonies. Emily hesitated before approaching him. "Mind if I sit?" she asked. Alex glanced up, surprised, then shrugged. As they talked, Emily explained her theory about the barrier. To her relief, Alex listened without laughing. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair, scratching his chin. "Let me guess," he said dryly. "You want me to take you out there?" Emily nodded. "I'll pay you, and I can clear some of your warrants if we succeed." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Clear my warrants? You must really believe this is worth it." He studied her face for a moment, then sighed. "Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you." Over the next few days, Emily and Alex gathered a small crew. Maya Lewis joined as their engineer. She was quick-thinking and good with tools. Ryan Cole, a quiet navigator, completed the team. Together, they prepared for the trip of a lifetime. A journey to the edge of human space. None of them knew what they would find. But deep down, Emily hoped the truth would finally come to light. Alex Turner wasn't used to working with scientists. Most of his jobs involved smuggling goods or ferrying passengers, simple tasks that didn't require much thought. But Emily Carter was different. She had a fire in her eyes, a determination that made it hard to say no. Even so, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this mission was a bad idea. Still, he needed the money, and the promise of clearing his warrants was too tempting to pass up. The crew gathered aboard the Aurora Dawn Asterisk, a modest research vessel retrofitted for long journeys. Mia Lewis, the engineer, spent hours checking every system. She moved quickly, her hands deftly tightening bolts and rerouting power cables. "If we're going out there," she said, wiping grease from her hands, "this ship has to be ready for anything." Ryan Cole, the navigator, preferred to stay quiet. He spent most of his time studying star charts, plotting a course to the edge of human space. His calm demeanor helped balance the tension on board. Emily worked tirelessly in the lab, reviewing data and preparing equipment. She wanted to document everything they found, no matter how small. Alex watched her sometimes, wondering what drove her obsession. "You really think there's something out there, don't you?" he asked one evening as they sat in the ship's common area. Emily looked up from her notes. "I know there is," she replied. "Something built that barrier. Someone put it there. Don't you want to know why?" Alex shrugged. "Curiosity gets people killed." His words hung in the air, but Emily didn't flinch. "It's worth the risk," she said firmly. As the days passed, the crew grew closer, though tensions remained. Alex and Emily often clashed over decisions. He wanted to move cautiously, while she pushed to go faster. Maya acted as a mediator, reminding them both that they needed each other to succeed. Ryan stayed out of the arguments, focusing on his work, but even he seemed uneasy, glancing at the stars outside the viewport, as if expecting something to appear. Finally, the day came to leave the station. The Aurora Dawn slipped into open space, its engines humming softly. The journey would take several days, giving the crew time to prepare. Emily ran simulations, testing theories about the barrier. Maya double-checked the ship's defenses, adding extra shielding just in case. Ryan plotted their approach carefully, ensuring they wouldn't stray too far off course. Alex took the helm, guiding the ship through the vast emptiness. He liked the quiet moments when the only sound was the faint hum of the engines. It gave him time to think. He wondered about Emily's theory. Was the barrier really alien, or was it something humans had forgotten about? Whatever it was, he knew they were heading into uncharted territory. No one had returned from beyond the barrier, not in centuries. On the third day, strange things began to happen. The ship's instruments started acting up, readings flickering unpredictably. At first, Maya thought it was a malfunction, but the problems persisted. Then, late one night, Ryan reported hearing whispers. "It's like voices," he said, rubbing his temples. "But I can't make out what they're saying." Emily dismissed it as stress, but Alex wasn't so sure. He'd seen enough weird things in his travels to know when something felt wrong. Still, they pressed on. The barrier loomed ahead, a shimmering line dividing the stars. As they drew closer, the crew braced themselves for whatever lay beyond. No one spoke as the Aurora Dawn approached the threshold. The barrier glowed faintly, pulsing with an energy unlike anything they'd ever seen. Emily leaned forward, her eyes wide with anticipation. Alex gripped the controls tightly, ready for anything. For better or worse, they were about to cross into the unknown. The Aurora Dawn hovered just outside the barrier, its engines humming softly. The crew gathered in the cockpit, staring at the shimmering wall of energy before them. It pulsed faintly, casting strange reflections on the ship's instruments. Emily leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the glowing line. "This is it," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Alex sat at the controls, his hands steady but tense. He glanced at Emily. "You sure about this?" he asked. His voice was calm, but there was a hint of unease beneath it. Emily nodded without hesitation. "We've come this far. We can't turn back now." Mia stood nearby, clutching her tablet. She had spent hours reinforcing the ship's systems, but even she looked uncertain. "If anything goes wrong, we might not have much time to fix it," she said quietly. Ryan remained silent, his gaze fixed on the barrier. He hadn't mentioned the whispers again, but Alex noticed the navigator's hands trembling slightly. Whatever Ryan had heard, or thought he'd heard, it clearly weighed on him. With a deep breath, Alex pushed the throttle forward. The Aurora Dawn moved slowly toward the barrier, its hull vibrating as it made contact. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a flash of light, the ship passed through. On the other side, everything changed. The stars looked different, twisted and stretched, their light bending in unnatural ways. Floating debris drifted around them, remnants of ships that had tried to cross before. Some pieces were scorched, others frozen solid. It was clear no one had survived. "Well," Alex muttered, breaking the silence, "this doesn't look promising." Emily ignored him, her attention focused on the readings flooding her screen. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a cluster of data. "There's something out there, a structure. Big." The crew followed her gaze. In the distance, a massive object loomed against the distorted sky. It was shaped like a towering monolith, its surface covered in intricate patterns. As they drew closer, the details became clearer. Strange symbols etched into the metal glowed faintly, pulsing in rhythm with the barrier behind them. "What do you think it is?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Emily admitted, "but I think it's why the barrier exists." Alex frowned. "Let's not jump to conclusions. That thing could be dangerous." Despite his warning, Emily insisted they investigate. The Aurora Dawn approached cautiously, its sensors scanning the monolith for signs of movement or traps. Nothing seemed active, but the air inside the ship grew heavier, filled with an unspoken tension. When they were close enough, Alex brought the ship to a stop. "What's the plan?" he asked. "We go out there," Emily replied. "Take samples, record everything. This could be the key to understanding the barrier." Mia hesitated. "And if it's booby-trapped, or worse?" Emily didn't answer right away. Finally, she said, "We'll be careful, but we can't leave without knowing more." Reluctantly, the crew suited up and prepared to leave the ship. Alex led the way, his hand resting on the weapon strapped to his side. Emily carried a scanner, her movements quick and precise. Mia held a toolkit, ready to repair anything that malfunctioned. Ryan stayed close to the group, his usual calm replaced by nervous glances over his shoulder. As they stepped onto the surface near the monolith, a chill ran through them. The ground beneath their feet felt cold and lifeless, yet there was an odd vibration in the air. The symbols on the monolith seemed to shift slightly, as if watching them. Emily reached out to touch the surface, her gloved hand brushing against the metal. Instantly, the symbols lit up, glowing brighter than before. A low hum filled the area, resonating in their chests. Emily pulled her hand back, startled. "It reacted," she said, her voice tinged with awe. "Great," Alex muttered. "Now what?" Before anyone could respond, the hum grew louder. A section of the monolith slid open, revealing a dark passage inside. The crew froze, staring at the opening. No one spoke. Whatever lay beyond, they all knew they were stepping into the unknown. The dark passage inside the monolith felt like stepping into another world. The crew hesitated at the entrance, their helmet lights cutting through the shadows. Emily was the first to move forward, her curiosity overpowering her fear. "We need to see what's in there," she said, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. Alex followed close behind, his hand still resting on his weapon. He scanned the walls as they walked, looking for traps or signs of danger. The symbols from the outside continued inside, glowing faintly along the corridor. They seemed to pulse in rhythm with the hum that filled the space, a sound that grew louder the deeper they went. Mia brought up the rear, clutching her toolkit tightly. She kept glancing over her shoulder, as if expecting something to appear behind them. "This place gives me the creeps," she muttered under her breath. Ryan didn't say anything. He stayed near Emily, his movements stiff and deliberate. His face was pale, even beneath the dim light of his helmet. Whatever he had heard before, those whispers, seemed to haunt him more than ever now. The passage opened into a large chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. In the center stood a pedestal, its surface covered in the same glowing symbols. Emily approached it cautiously, her scanner humming as it collected data. "This is incredible," she said, her voice filled with wonder. These symbols, they're some kind of language. Or a warning, Alex said sharply. He didn't trust the place. Every instinct told him to leave, but he knew Emily wouldn't listen. As Emily studied the pedestal, the symbols began to shift again. Lines rearranged themselves, forming patterns that seemed almost familiar. Suddenly, a hologram flickered to life above the pedestal. It showed stars, planets, and strange structures scattered across the galaxy. The crew stared in silence as the image rotated slowly, revealing connections between the locations. "What is this?" Maya asked, her voice trembling. "I think it's a map," Emily replied, her eyes wide with excitement. "It shows other barriers, just like the one we crossed. And look." She pointed to a section of the map labeled with unfamiliar markings. One area stood out, a symbol that resembled the shape of human space. "This can't be right," Alex said, shaking his head. "You're telling me someone, or something, put barriers around other species too." "It looks that way," Emily said. "Whoever built these barriers must have had a reason. Maybe to protect us, or to keep us contained." Ryan stepped closer, his gaze fixed on the hologram. "What if it's both?" he asked quietly. His voice echoed in the chamber, drawing everyone's attention. "What if they're protecting us from something out there? Something worse?" The thought hung heavy in the air. No one spoke for a moment, each lost in their own fears. The idea that the barrier wasn't just a wall, but a shield, was unsettling. Emily tried to focus on the details of the map, but her hands were shaking. She noticed something else etched into the pedestal, a series of warnings written in the same alien script. "Wait," she said, pointing to the text. "This part repeats. I think it says, 'Do not seek beyond.'" Alex frowned. "Sounds like advice we should have listened to." Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath them trembled slightly. The hum grew louder, reverberating through the chamber. The hologram flickered, then changed. New images appeared, scenes of destruction, planets burning, ships exploding, creatures unlike anything they'd ever seen swarming across the stars. Mia gasped, taking a step back. "What is that?" Emily's voice was barely a whisper. I think it's what happens when the barriers fail." The realization hit them all at once. The barriers weren't just walls. They were safeguards. And crossing them might have consequences far greater than any of them imagined. "We need to go," Alex said firmly. "Now." But as they turned to leave, the entrance to the chamber slid shut, trapping them inside. The hum grew deafening, and the symbols on the walls began to glow brighter. Whatever they had awakened, it wasn't done with them yet. The crew froze as the entrance sealed shut, cutting off their only way out. The hum in the chamber grew louder, vibrating through their suits and making it hard to think. Emily stared at the glowing symbols on the walls, her mind racing. "Stay calm," she said, though her voice betrayed her fear. "There has to be another way out." Alex stepped forward, scanning the room for anything that might help. His hand tightened on his weapon as he moved cautiously around the pedestal. "This place is a trap," he muttered. "We shouldn't have come in here." Mia clutched her toolkit, glancing nervously at the shifting patterns of light on the walls. "Maybe we triggered something when we touched the pedestal," she suggested. "Can we turn it off?" Emily shook her head. "I don't know how. The symbols are too complex. I can't read them fast enough." Ryan stood near the back of the chamber, his breathing quick and shallow. He kept looking over his shoulder, as if expecting something to appear behind him. "We need to leave," he said, his voice trembling. "Now." Before anyone could respond, the hologram above the pedestal changed again. This time, it showed a series of images, ancient beings standing among the stars, their forms towering and alien. They seemed to radiate power, their presence commanding respect. One image depicted these beings constructing barriers around different regions of the galaxy, including human space. "They're the ones who built this," Emily whispered, her eyes wide with awe. "They must have been protecting us from something." The next image confirmed her worst fears. It showed those same beings battling monstrous creatures, twisted, shadowy figures that seemed to consume everything they touched. Entire civilizations fell before them, their planets reduced to ash. The final image was clearest, a warning written in bold symbols. "Do not seek beyond." Alex read aloud. "Or else." "Or else what?" Maya asked, her voice rising with panic. No one answered. The message was clear enough. Crossing the barrier had awakened something ancient and dangerous. Suddenly, the pedestal emitted a sharp tone, and the walls began to shift. Panels slid open, revealing narrow tunnels leading in different directions. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. "Which way do we go?" Ryan asked, his voice barely audible. "We don't split up," Alex said firmly. "Stick together." Emily hesitated, torn between leaving and staying to learn more. But the growing intensity of the hum made up her mind. "Let's take the middle tunnel," she said, pointing to one that sloped upward. "It might lead us back to the surface." They moved quickly, their helmet lights casting long shadows ahead of them. The tunnel twisted and turned, its walls lined with the same glowing symbols. Every step felt heavier, as if the air itself resisted them. Behind them, faint noises echoed, scraping sounds, like claws dragging against metal. "What was that?" Maya asked, stopping abruptly. Her voice quivered with fear. "Keep moving," Alex urged, pushing her gently forward. "Don't look back." The noises grew louder, closer. Whatever was following them was gaining ground. The group broke into a run, their boots pounding against the floor. Emily stumbled but caught herself, her scanner falling from her grip. She reached down to grab it, but Alex grabbed her arm instead. "Leave it," he shouted. "We don't have time." At last, they reached the end of the tunnel. A hatch stood before them, sealed shut. Alex worked quickly to pry it open, his hands fumbling with the controls. Behind them, the scraping sounds turned into growls. Deep, guttural noises that sent chills down their spines. "Hurry," Ryan yelled, his voice cracking. With a hiss, the hatch opened, revealing the cold emptiness of space. The crew scrambled through, sealing it behind them, just as the growls erupted into a deafening roar. They sprinted toward the Aurora Dawn asterisk, their hearts pounding. Once aboard, Alex wasted no time firing up the engines. As the ship lifted off, Emily looked back at the monolith through the viewport. Its glow had dimmed, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they had unleashed something far worse than they could imagine. The Aurora Dawn asterisk shot away from the monolith, its engines roaring as Alex pushed them to full power. No one spoke. The only sounds were the hum of the ship and the ragged breathing of the crew. Emily stared out the viewport, her mind racing with everything they had seen. The images of destruction, the warnings, the shadowy creatures. It all felt too real, too close. "We need to get back across the barrier," Alex said finally, breaking the silence. His voice was firm but strained. "Whatever's chasing us, it can't follow once we're on the other side." Mia nodded, gripping the edge of her seat. "What if it can?" she asked quietly. "What if crossing the barrier doesn't stop it?" Alex didn't answer. He didn't have an answer. Instead, he focused on flying, his hand steady on the controls despite the tension in the air. Ryan sat hunched over, his face pale and drawn. He hadn't said much since they left the monolith, but his eyes darted around the cockpit as if expecting something to burst through the walls at any moment. "We shouldn't have gone there," he muttered under his breath. "We should have listened." Emily turned to look at him. "It's not your fault," she said softly. But even as she spoke, she couldn't help feeling guilty. She had been the one to insist on exploring the monolith, on pushing forward despite the warnings. Now they were paying the price. As they approached the barrier, the ship's instruments began acting up again. Lights flickered, and the hum of the engines grew uneven. Mia scrambled to stabilize the systems, her fingers flying over her tablet. "Something's interfering with the ship," she said, her voice tight with worry. "We might not make it through. Just keep trying." Alex snapped, his focus locked on the shimmering wall ahead. They hit the barrier with a jolt, the ship shuddering violently as it passed through. For a moment, everything went dark. Then, slowly, the lights came back on, and the engines steadied. They were back in human space, but their relief was short-lived. Behind them, the barrier pulsed brightly, its glow more intense than before. And then, through the viewport, they saw it, a massive shadow moving just beyond the barrier. It didn't cross, but it lingered, watching. "What is that thing?" Mia whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know," Alex replied, his jaw tight. "But it's waiting." Emily leaned forward, staring at the shadow. Her mind raced with questions. Had they triggered this? Was it the same kind of creature they'd seen in the holograms? She wanted answers, but deep down, she knew some things were better left unknown. The crew sat in silence for a long time, each lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Alex spoke. "We need to report this," he said. "Tell someone what we found." "No," Emily said quickly, surprising even herself. "No one will believe us. They'll think we're crazy, or worse, they'll send more ships to investigate. We can't let that happen." Alex frowned. "So what do we do? Pretend it never happened?" "For now," Emily replied, "until we figure out what we're dealing with." The others exchanged uneasy glances, but didn't argue. They all knew Emily was right. Crossing the barrier had changed them, and not just because of what they'd seen. It had shown them how small and fragile humanity really was. As the Aurora Dawn drifted further from the barrier, the shadow faded from view, but none of them could shake the feeling that they were being watched. Whatever lay beyond the barrier, it wasn't done with them yet. The crew of the Aurora Dawn returned to human space, but they were no longer the same people who had left. The journey had changed them in ways they couldn't fully understand. Emily spent hours staring at her notes, trying to make sense of the symbols and images they had seen. But the more she thought about it, the heavier the guilt weighed on her. She had led them into danger, risking their lives for answers that only raised more questions. Alex kept his distance, spending most of his time in the cockpit or tinkering with the ship's systems. He tried to act like nothing was wrong, but Mia noticed the way he flinched whenever the engines made an unfamiliar sound. "You okay?" she asked one evening as they worked together in the engine room. He shrugged, avoiding her gaze. "Just tired," he said, but Mia knew better. Alex was haunted by what they'd seen, by the shadow that had watched them leave. Ryan avoided everyone. He stayed in his quarters, staring at the walls as if waiting for something to appear. Sometimes, Maya would hear him talking to himself, though she couldn't make out the words. When she knocked on his door, he didn't answer. It was as if he was afraid to let anyone get close. Mia tried to hold things together, but even she struggled. Every noise outside the ship made her jump. At night, she dreamed of the monolith and the creatures from the holograms. She woke up sweating, her heart pounding. She wanted to tell someone how she felt, but she didn't know where to start. When they finally reached a nearby station, the crew went their separate ways. Alex disappeared into the crowd, muttering something about needing space. Maya stayed behind to file a report, though she left out nearly everything about the barrier. Ryan didn't say goodbye. He just vanished, leaving behind only his empty bunk. Emily lingered longest, staring at the stars through the station's windows. For weeks afterward, rumors spread about the Aurora Dawn. People whispered about strange energy readings and unexplained phenomena near the edge of human space. Some claimed to have seen shadows moving beyond the barrier. Others dismissed it as superstition. No one dared investigate further. Emily retreated to a quiet colony on the outskirts of human space. She stopped talking about the mission, refusing to answer questions when others asked. Instead, she spent her days studying the fragments of data she'd managed to save. The symbols still eluded her, but she couldn't stop trying to decipher them. Something about them felt unfinished, like a puzzle missing its final piece. Alex returned to smuggling, taking jobs that kept him far from the barrier. He told himself he was done with exploration, but part of him wondered if the shadow was still out there, waiting. Sometimes, late at night, he swore he could hear whispers in the hum of his ship's engines. Mia threw herself into her work, repairing ships and upgrading defenses. She became known for her meticulous attention to detail, though no one understood why she insisted on adding extra shielding to every vessel she touched. Deep down, she hoped it would be enough, if the worst ever came. As for Ryan, he was never seen again. Some said he had gone mad, while others believed he had crossed the barrier willingly, seeking answers. Either way, his name faded into legend, a cautionary tale about the dangers of curiosity. The barrier remained intact, its secrets guarded by silence. Humanity continued to thrive within its limits, unaware of what lay beyond, or the cost of asking too many questions. And so, life went on, with no one reckless enough to ask why the galactic secrets ended at human space.